Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video, I'm going to go over some of the set balancing ideas that I would kind of put forth in terms of helping out some of the lower ranked and least used sets in the game. Now that we have confirmation from Plarium that that topic is on the table and coming at some point in the future. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so first things, let me go ahead and pop up my sets tier list here. This is in a pinned comment on every single video I put out as one of the resources that I have in my video descriptions and pinned comments for people to pull up. And it's never going to be perfect. I try to update it and move things around as things kind of change in the raid community. It's more just kind of a reference for players to kind of try to get a grasp on which sets are maybe the most used in the game and the most generally useful. You almost need two different tier lists in terms of early game and end game. Because for example, immunity is probably not that good in the early game. It's not going to help you a whole lot in dungeon progression, but it's really good in the end game when you want to put together like immunity teams for the arena and stuff. So it's really hard to get it down to one list and rank things accurately, but it's just supposed to be a starting point and something to kind of drive discussion. The thing I get hammered on the most by far, and I almost want to change it just so I don't have to listen to it every day, is my ranking of divine sets and how I have them below the non-divine versions. And it comes down to the acquisition. You can't acquire it. Like you can't get divine speed nearly as realistic as you can get speed. So that means that your odds of being able to put together a successful set and work around in terms of gearing a champion is going to be a lot tougher for divine speed. So I don't think the self HP shield for 3 turns makes up for the scarcity of the set. So what I think would be a good place to start in set balancing is make each divine set have a small chance to drop instead of the base version in dungeons. So let's say you're doing the dragon and you're looking for speed sets. Each speed piece that drops should have like a 10% chance to be a divine piece instead. That way, obviously, it's still valuable, it's still tough to acquire, and it's still very sought after in arena rewards where it's guaranteed to be a divine piece and not a base speed piece. But at least I could bump it up then because we have a way to acquire it besides fighting in the arena for 4 years to put together finally a good set after you sift through all the flat stats and stuff. You can finally put together a good set of it, or having to spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars in market offers to be able to find good divine speed pieces. So I think that one small change would help people at least have a realistic route towards acquiring it in dungeons, and it would still be and it would be a source of excitement, like, oh, I got a divine speed piece from running dragon. So maybe just give them a small set chance to drop instead of the base versions when you are doing the dragon. But also I would change the relentless set just a little bit. It's supposed to be like the best set in the game in terms of trying to finish high in tournaments to acquire it, and they never really sell it or anything. I wouldn't change it much. I would maybe just bump it up a little bit each turn that it doesn't proc. So maybe like 2%. So it's 18% as is, and the next turn it's 20%, and then 22%, and then 24% until you get the relentless proc, and then it resets back to 18, just to make it a little bit more consistent. So keep it mostly the same. Maybe just add like a qualifier there where it starts at 18%, and if it doesn't proc, it bumps up to 20% for the next turn, and then 22. So I think something like that would help the relentless set just be a little bit more consistent and bump it up just a little bit in terms of being sought after and people fighting over it in tournaments and being a little bit more worth it to do so. But just in general, as we dive into the worst sets in the game, or at least the least used and the least general utility sets, I think the good route to go for this would be to bump them up instead of like nerfing 25 sets. I think the best route would be to address the sets that nobody uses. I've got these sets that nobody uses as Avenging, Toxic, Fury, Curing, Cursed, and Destroy. Now, I know some of you are already raging in the comment section. No, I put it on this character once, and it does really good in this scenario. Like, I get it. Like, there are exceptions. There are times, like maybe for certain clan boss comps or faction wars boss teams that you're trying to complete, it might make sense to put toxic on somebody if you have really good gear of toxic because you don't really use it that much. Like, I get it. There are exceptions that occur, but these 6 sets I think are the least used in the game. So that's where I would start in terms of addressing set balance, and we'll just work our way down here, starting at avenging. The 30% chance to counterattack when hit by a crit, just a little bit too inconsistent. I would either keep it as is and make it a 2-piece set instead of a 4-piece set, or I would bump it up to 50% if it's going to be a 4-piece, and then maybe give it some other ancillary effect like heal 4% HP per turn or something. And then that leads us into retaliation, because these are the 2 counterattack sets in the game. I get retaliation a little bit higher, maybe because it's just a little bit more consistent, but you can argue they should both be kind of right next to each other. The 25%, again, so the only difference is that it doesn't have to be a crit to proc the effect. It's just when the champion is hit. I would either, again, leave it as is and make it a 2-piece set, or bump it up to like 35-40% if you're going to make it a 4-piece set. Then for toxic, I think it's absurd that it's a 4-piece set and places the baby version of poison. Poison has 2 different versions, the 2.5% and the 5%. I don't see any reason to have a set in the game that places 2.5% poisons. So I would either make this a 2-piece set and make it 50% chance to place a 5% poison, or make it a 4-piece set but 100% chance to place a 5% poison, but not let you do it with multi-hitters. So let's say somebody like who has a triple hit A1, like a Vizier or something. If you put him in a poison set, he's not going to place 3 5% poisons. He's just going to place the 1. So I think that would be fair. If it's a 4-piece set, that you have to get a lot of utility out of that set for it to be worth those 4 slots of gear, instead of getting like the 24 speed or the other effects that you could get from other gear like lifesteal or something. So I think placing 1 5% poison would be totally fair if they made that change to toxic. Then for Fury, this is a tough one. I think I admittedly, I haven't done a deep dive into Fury, so I don't perfectly understand the mechanics, and admittedly, that's something I should probably do at some point, but I've heard that it caps out at like a 25% damage bonus, and it's super, it requires a lot of qualifiers to get it to work and to get that effect. So either make this a 2-piece set and let it cap at 25% or whatever it caps at in terms of HP decreasing to bump up your damage. So yeah, I think that'd be fair. Just bump that down to a 2-piece set. And in order for me to change that significantly, I'd have to really do a deep dive into the mechanics of the set, and that is something I do want to put on my list to do. But it's one of those sets where just make it a 2-piece, and sure, it might see some use then. Then we get into the D tier. These are the sets that really just are so they don't bring a whole lot of value to the game at all, and that's Curing, Cursed, and Destroy. So for Curing, I would just change it to a 2-piece set instead of a 4-piece, and then give you 20% bonus heal. So I would double the effect and make it a 2-piece set instead of a 4-piece. You can see my thought process is trying to turn some of these lesser used sets into 2-piece sets, give players a little bit more customization and able to squeeze it into other builds instead of having to really define your entire build by a 4-piece set that is a little bit wonky and not consistent in terms of value. So that's how I would change Curing, just to start and see if that's good enough. You want to be careful when you're rebalancing things, because you don't want to completely break the game. You don't want to like bump it up to 50% bonus heal or something, and then all of a sudden everybody's using Curing in these super sustained teams or something in the arena. So you want to be careful when balancing things. I lean towards adjust things smaller but more often, instead of adjusting things once every year or two and doing it big. I like tweaks when it comes to balancing. See how it plays out, and if it doesn't play out well, tweak it again. So I like to go that route instead of these big mass sweeping changes. Cursed, for Cursed, I would probably leave it as a 4-piece, but make it a 100% chance to place the 50% heal reduction instead of a 50% chance. I mean, it's only a 50%. It's not like it's a 100% heal reduction. So I think that's fair. If it's a 4-piece build-defining set choice, I think a 100% chance to place the baby version of heal reduction is totally fair in that scenario. And then for Destroy, decrease enemy max HP by 30%, damage dealt. Yeah, I think the best starting point for that is just bump it down to a 2-piece set. I can't really think of a way to like keep it a 4-piece where it's so build defining and then kind of leave that balance. I would just swap that out to a 2-piece and kind of see how that plays out. I know decreasing enemy max HP by damage dealt is one that can be hard to get consistent value out of. You have to really fight like a long battle to really let that start to take effect, and it has to be a very specific situation to really waste the 4 pieces on a character slot in a team to get value out of that. So I would just move it down to 2-piece and see how that plays out in the community and see how it kind of goes. The other sets, I mean, there's little changes you can make, but I think all in all, the sets besides these ones at the very bottom and maybe a small divine change in terms of giving players a route to acquire them, I think other than that, the sets are pretty well done. Of course, there's other small tweaks you can make that would try to bring things in line in terms of balance. But I wanted to throw this out there just as an opportunity to start a discussion because I really want to know what you guys think. Are my ideas decent? Are they crazy? And what are your ideas as well? I really enjoy kind of seeing how you guys react to my rankings, and I do take input. If I hear a lot of people saying the same thing, there's times where I move things up and down, not only on my sets tier list, but also on my champions tier list as well. So I wanted to get this out there as a starting point because we do know that Plarium is going to be rebalancing sets at some point by 2025. I mean, in 2021. We know that's coming down the road at some point. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of drive a little bit of discussion and get a video out there about that and let you guys know kind of my thought process on getting that conversation started. So yeah, that's going to kind of do it for this one. And as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.